Welcome to KRA's The Hub, the official podcast of KRA Corporation. And now get ready to hear workforce topics and trends you need to know on the go.
Hello and welcome back to KRA's The Hub. This is Doug Foresta. Of course, I'm here with Jonathan Overall. Also joining us today is Kevin Williams from the Spokane Workforce Council. Kevin, Jonathan, great to be with both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug. It's great to be here.
Yeah, Doug. Great
Kevin.
to see you again, Jonathan. Always great to talk to you guys.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a really rich conversation here. So, all right. So the first thing I want to ask you, just to kind of set the stage for people who may not, people like me who may not even know how to pronounce Spokane and they say Spokane. Can you tell us a little bit about the Spokane Workforce Council and the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, it is different than the way that it's sang by the Zac Brown Band in their song. They say Spokane. So it's Spokane. It doesn't look like it. I'm not native to here. It took me a while as well to make sure I got the pronunciation right. So yeah, thanks, Doug. So yeah, Spokane Workforce Council. And I think a lot of folks probably listening who are in the workforce development world know, but there's 550 workforce development boards, workforce development councils throughout the United States. And they're part of course, the workforce development system. And typically they're charged with overseeing, the 2,400, 2,500 American job centers and the system that kind of goes around it. And no different here in Spokane. So we're on the eastern side of Washington, not the western side, which is where Seattle is, but we are the second largest city outside of Seattle in the state of Washington. And we have both urban and rural environments. So a little bit different than Seattle, which primarily is looking at a more of an urban environment there. So we are Spokane County exclusive, and within that, our system includes a campus, which, as I mentioned before, has our comprehensive American Job Center, adult American Job Center. It has our youth center, the Next Generation Zone. It has our Talent Solutions Center or Business Services Center, and lastly, we have, which is kind of unique here in the state of Washington, and from what I understand throughout the U.S., we also have a social services one-stop center, kind of going with the same design as you have with an American Job Center that's dealing with more pre-employment things, some of those things that are barriers in front of individuals before they can ever talk about employment or training or educational opportunities. And we kind of recognized that we needed that. So we put that here on our center too. And it's been very successful with the partnerships we've had with the city and the county of bringing that. So we have a really comprehensive campus with just about 125 staff altogether working there. And I think here in Spokane County, it's known that this is the one spot you can go if you need any of those, employment, educational training, and now social services.
That's great, Kevin. You talked about just the comprehensive nature of the programs that your organization oversees, and your role really is the system advancement director. And I know you're doing some work around customer-centered design. Can you talk about your role, what that entails, and how you guys are embedding that customer-centered design into that system advancement?
Yeah, Jonathan, we've really believe in human-centered design, customer-centered design. It has been the focus of just about everything that we've done. I'd say for the last decade, we have tirelessly worked with both our staff and with customers to ensure that all the services that we design are around customer-centered practices, that the customer has a voice, whether that's through voice circles, which you do with young adults, as well as, not just surveys and not just sending something out and having them do a Likert scale 1 through 5. What does that tell us, right? Hey, we're a 3, we're a 4, but actually having interviews and doing mapping of where we're actually walking the steps of what it looks like for a customer, regardless of why they're walking in our doors. And then, of course, getting a lot of feedback, doing a lot of interviewing, and not just interviewing the customers that engage with our campus to each of our centers, but also, going out in the public and, we engage with individuals, where there's density of folks and saying, hey, did you know about, the workforce campus? And if they don't, we get a great job, right, to get to go out and evangelize a little bit to them so they can tell friends and family or use it themselves. Or, we can ask them, hey, what would you like to see if you had to go to an employment center or an education center? What would you like to see? And so getting that feedback has been the key for us to be successful, because we really felt that we've built our integrated service delivery model, how we believe it should be built, based on customer voice. And I think that's what's made the difference for us.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That's great. Now, I know that you have a myriad of responsibilities, one of which is also overseeing the business services, talent solutions part of the organization. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges and opportunities that you're seeing in your region, relative to talent development and business needs?
I'm sure that ours are no different than probably what everyone out there, working with employers say. Right now, economists would take a look at this, as would potentially legislator, and they would say, "Wow, this is a booming economy." And they can't disagree with certain numbers, but data only tells one part of the story. And if you talk to employers, they would say, "No, there's labor shortages, right? They can't find the individuals." And I think that, a lot of that has to do with data that you can take a look at. Obviously, the silver tsunami, the baby boomer generation, of course, leaving the workforce. And I think that the global pandemic, had a huge effect that we're still feeling, and we'll always, I think, feel for a little while some of the effects of individuals who left the workforce. But a lot of individuals, younger individuals, as well as, folks who can fill those spots, that have been lost in some of those key industries that we have here in Spokane, manufacturing being one of those, of course, transportation, warehousing, healthcare. Those key industries don't have individuals who are trained and have the skill sets to actually feed into those positions that have been lost. So we're really working as hard as we can with our employers. Once again, to Jonathan's earlier question, customer-centered design is there as well, right? You have to build your business services around the needs of the businesses who are our primary customers. Without knowing what businesses need, we can't serve job seekers. So recognizing they are our primary customer. And so, finding out from businesses, but also we have to share information with businesses, because the job seekers of 5 years ago, 10 years ago, don't have the same needs that the job seekers, of today have. And they probably won't have the same needs 5 years down the road. And that's kind of what you want to project for. So I think we're working, to work with our employers to recognize, Gen Z, or whatever name that you want to give them. What are they looking for when they're looking for an employer? They're not looking for some of the same benefits the three of us may have been looking for, in stuff like pensions and long-term employment. You're lucky if you got somebody for 3 to 5 years nowadays. And, they're looking for culture. They're looking for flexibility. And so working with businesses to understand how they have to change their business model where they can, so that they can actually be an employer of choice for individuals who need to join into some of those key industries that we have in Spokane that have more people retiring or leaving than have coming into their pipeline.
So Kevin, thank you for that, because I love your approach with approaching businesses and really helping them to understand what are some of the emerging workforce trends, job seeker preferences, and that's a big part of the economic response post-pandemic and just as a workforce provider. But as we zoom out and you think about where we are in the world of workforce development and the status of WIOA funding, and we know levels are starting to diminish year after year, what are some of the strategies? What are some of the responses that local regions can take, and perhaps some of the things that you guys are doing in the Spokane area?
So I think the first thing is diversification. So you just mentioned it. I'm sure everyone who is listening to this who receives WIOA funding recognizes that over the last several years that WIOA funding has gotten a little bit less and less and less. We're a cyclic, just like everything else. And of course, we're that unique workforce development's that unique industry that if things aren't going great in the economy, we get flushed with money, right, to help individuals out. And when the economy looks as though unemployment rates are down, we're not going to get quite as bit of money. But how do we continue to sustain at a level throughout and to be able to get through those times? I think diversification is the best. Yes, WIOA funding should still be and will always be probably the primary staple for the work that we do, and drives a lot of the governance around what we do as American Job Centers and as workforce development boards. But at the same time, I think that we have to look a little bit at our business partners that we have in the community and see, a lot of businesses right now, employers are willing to invest their own money into the workforce development system and taking them up on that, but actually sitting down and working with them to figure out what that may look like. I know pre to this, in the prep work, we talked a little about skills-based training, and I think really emphasizing that skills-based training, that that, has more practical applications than it does theoretical knowledge for individuals. Job seekers are looking for opportunities of where, they can compact, the training that they get, and employers are looking for that as well. So I think workforce development boards and workforce development councils have to work with our post-secondary educational partners as well and get some things changed where some of that's happening a little bit faster. And I will say here, working with Spokane Community College and Spokane Falls Community College, shameless shout out to both of them. They really see themselves as a true workforce development partner here in Spokane, and we appreciate that. And, we're on several of their advisory boards and saying the same thing to them. So diversification, I think, and then looking for, what's making sure we're the voice of what the job seekers and employers actually want at workforce development tables.
Thank you so much, Kevin. So, before we started recording, we were chatting a little bit about, there are issues that may seem adjacent to workforce development, but are actually very crucial to workforce development and to talent development and business needs. And one of those is childcare. And we know that this is an issue, not just in Washington, but across the country. Can you talk about some of the things that you're doing to work on, building up capacity, or at least addressing the issue of the need for quality childcare?
Yeah, childcare is a workforce development issue. And I know that that's been batted around quite a bit in workforce development and with the 550 workforce development councils and boards across the United States. But here in Spokane, we've embraced that and recognized that it is a workforce development. It has major impacts on workforce development and individuals getting back to work. And of course, childcare does impact, and data shows, more women than it does anyone else. And so how do we bring back some of those working mothers, back into the actual workforce? And we've worked on several different things and come up with something called Reconnect the Work. And we're working with local partners here, and of course some funding that we received as well from state of Washington, as well as from the Department of Labor, to work on this project. And it has a threefold kind of way that we're rolling it out. The first is, of course, working with the actual providers, childcare providers, who want to expand capacity, but they can't because they don't have individuals who, of course, are pipelining in to choose childcare as an actual occupation. And that's a tough one right there, right off the bat, because it is an entry-level position, but it is an entry-level position into other educational opportunities that could come from that. But it also right now is a wage that's a little bit lower than where we'd like it. So of course, lobbying to get that wage up so that it looks like obviously a job that individuals would be more interested in. And then letting especially young adults know about, if you're interested in education and moving on down the road into potentially being, a teacher or something like that, this is a great stepping stone towards that. And making sure that we make that connection between childcare and potential educational careers in the future. The second part is working, first working with the employers and then working with those individuals who have stepped out of the workforce because they've decided that the costs are not, they're prohibitive for them to, have someone and have their child in childcare and go back to work. The sum number doesn't add up. And so working with them and figuring out with them exactly, how they could find affordable childcare, and then looking and giving them ideas about what that affordable childcare is, and also talking to them about what employers are offering. And that's our last piece that ties into that second piece, is working with employers to make sure they understand every organization. I don't care who you are, you have a position there that you can either have 100% remote or have something that's a hybrid flex schedule. And we need to recognize that's the key to pulling individuals who've left the workforce back in. That's what they're looking for. And for someone who can't afford childcare or doesn't see themselves or doesn't even want to, they want to be home with their children, they still could work, and they could work in a remote environment. So having organizations look at themselves and say, what could I change about our business plan that ends up allowing individuals to go ahead and work remotely, but yet still be able to watch their kids and get back into the workforce. So we're kind of attacking it from that. We're pretty proud of our Reconnect to Work program, which you can find more out about that out on our Spokane Workforce Council webpage if you want to go out to that. It's really, I think in the long run, recognizing it as a workforce development issue and making sure that it's one of our priorities to look at, I think is going to really benefit a lot of folks in the future.
Great. Kevin, your role in system advancement, you've obviously been at the forefront of leading change, responding to the current turbulent times that we've all gone through as a world, but also as a workforce industry. What would some of the advice be to other workforce leaders in terms of navigating through these times?
Love the word turbulent. I'll just say this, when you say turbulent, I think of being an aircraft and it's all bumpy, and I get that and everything like that. I think that there are challenges right now from a variety. We already talked about a few, the funding, changing environments that have happened, but it sounds very cliché, but with every challenge comes opportunity. And I think that if I had any advice is, a lot of workforce development, boards and councils throughout the United States, that they're going to do a 4-year plan, and they're probably getting ready to up their 4-year plan, as I know we are here from 2024 to 2028. And I think you have to look at the future and project a little bit of that, and take the challenges that you see, the turbulence that you're feeling right now, and kind of turn that into opportunities and do more of a how might we instead of we can't, right? And figure out a little bit about how are we going to change as well. We can't use 2 years ago's textbook to study for the test of the future. And I think that's unfortunately what a lot of individuals are doing. And even going back of saying, when are things going to go back to pre-2019? That's not going to happen. So come to reality on that and recognize that it's changed. And we're going to have to change with it. And back to what I spoke about before, diversifying, your portfolio of funding that you have coming in and the partnerships that you have. Is there somebody there that's not part of your workforce development system that you need to bring in? And making sure you're engaging with all of the, community-based organizations that are in your purview, to have them come in and add a lot of insight to it. Whereas sometimes we've worked in a little bit of a restricted world of what workforce development was. I think we have to expand out a little bit and rethink of what is the 3 words work. Well, are they 3 words or 2 words? I'm going to show my ignorance there. Workforce development. I guess they're 2 words. Workforce development. What does those 2 words really mean? And, I really think that each council, each board out there across the nation should drill down and really say, what's our primary mission? And from that, with these challenges, how do we turn them into, wonderful things that could happen in the near future?
Kevin, it's just been an absolute pleasure to have someone on like yourself that has the breadth of experience in workforce development and to share what's going on, not only in your region, but like you said, I think many people that are listening to this in workforce will identify with the challenges and appreciate the solutions that you've developed. So I know people are going to say, where can I learn more about that, Kevin Williams, and about the Spokane Workforce Council? Where should we send them?
Yeah, so you can send them out to SpokaneWorkforce.org is our website, obviously, and there's information there where individuals can connect with us, and obviously we love talking to other workforce development areas, out there across the whole United States, and love to collaborate and come up with ideas together. I think that's one of the best ways that we can do it. So I'm hoping this podcast, somebody out there who's listening, look me up, give me a call, tell me what's cool about what you're doing so that I can steal it from you, or we can share ideas, whichever way you want to call it, about great best practices that are out there. We've got to work as a community, I think, going forward, and that's kind of the way. Doug, I'm taking way too long on an answer of saying go out to SpokaneWorkforce.org and you can find my information.
Kevin, hey, again, thank you. Great conversation today. It was wonderful to connect with you. And I look forward to collaborating and having more conversations around the work that you're doing there in Spokane. And again, we appreciate your time today and the value that you've added to our audience.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate you having me on, and also appreciate you having this podcast where like-minded workforce development professionals and others can come together and listen to these. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to KRA's The Hub. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about KRA Corporation, visit www.kra.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.